And it's a funny story. So we get there early, super early, like 6 a.m., go through hair and makeup. They put on microphones for us, and then we walk out and we see the set where the sharks are going to sit. We see our dorm room set, and the producers were like, "Guys, get back in your dressing room. You got 20 minutes until showtime." So at this point, we're hyped. Like we're ready. We know the pitch down cold. The first 90 seconds is the scripted pitch that we write as entrepreneurs, and then after that, it's a dialogue. It's a conversation. And we were in front of the sharks for over an hour, but we're waiting in the dressing room. 20 minutes till showtime, and we're like jumping around like it's about 10 minutes before kickoff, like we're hyped. And my brother Jake is like, I'm going to set the tone right away. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to kiss Barbara right on the lips. And then that's how we're going to start this show. And I'm like, I don't know if that's right, but fuck yeah, I love your energy. And 5 minutes go by and we get a knock on the door and we're like, all right, boys, it's showtime. And the producer opens the door and says, boys, your microphones are on. We can hear everything you're saying. So we're like, oh no.
We created the world's first super coffee. Okay. Our coaches were unhappy because we were falling asleep in class after morning workouts. And our school stores offered only the usual unhealthy bottled coffees and energy drinks. But the three of us refused to put that garbage into our bodies. We thought that there has to be a healthy energy alternative. So in our youngest brother's dorm room, we brewed something better.
And we've created a product that people want because it works, and we have the sales to prove it.
Hello and welcome to Hot Seat, the podcast where we grill amazing direct-to-consumer entrepreneurs to find out the secrets of their success while providing feedback to help improve their digital marketing. Today, we are super lucky to have Jim DiCicco, oldest brother, and co-founder, CEO of SuperCoffee by Kitchu Life. Their mission, mass produce positive energy with their low sugar, high nutritional value coffee drinks. And they're off to a good start with SuperCoffee. They have driven over 800K in their first 2 years. Maybe they can update us on that even. They've had an appearance on Shark Tank, and then a substantial presence in Whole Foods, Target, Wegmans, Wawa, a really great retail strategy. Today, we're here to talk more specifically about their direct-to-consumer strategy and lots more fun stuff. Welcome to the Hot Seat, Jim. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Eric and Jeff, Kyle, thank you guys. Thanks for having me on here. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, man.
We, of course, always have guests from the Pilothouse side of things. We have co-founders Jeff Shannon and Kyle Hitchcocks to join us as well. So let's kick things off with the SuperCoffee story, Jim. Tell us where this idea came from and how it came to be.
Yeah, no, great question. I'll give you guys the cliff notes, but this is actually year 5 for us. So 5 years ago, my brothers and I were all college athletes here in the States. I played football. My middle brother played football, and then my youngest brother played basketball. And the youngest brother found that he was falling asleep in class. He had 5 a.m. basketball practice, late nights in the library, and his school store only sold sugary bottled coffees and energy drinks. So he was like, there's nothing in my school store that tastes good is good for me and gives me energy. So he started brewing his own coffee. He would make it super strong, dark, organic, Colombian Arabica beans. And what he would add to it is protein instead of milk or cream. He'd add healthy fats from coconut oil, sort of fuel for the brain on the, like, if you're familiar with the keto diet, MCT oil is a big proponent. And then finally, he sweetened it with monk fruit, so 0 sugar. And the product tasted good. It was good for him, and it gave him energy. He was no longer falling asleep in class. He had more energy at practice. And he was like, holy shit, there's an opportunity here, right? It's a $2 billion industry in the US. The Starbucks Frappuccino is dominating it. It's loaded with sugar, loaded with calories. We have a real opportunity to address a big market in a major way and make an impact. So fast forward a couple months, he ends up dropping out of school right away. I left my job to join him, and we started selling coffee. We got into one store. We became the best-selling coffee in that store in our first couple weeks. Made all our own deliveries, stocked all the shelves, and all the while sort of learning the lingo of the industry. Like, I didn't know what a startup was before we got into this, so we didn't have any background, no experience, no desire to be an entrepreneur. It sort of just happened this way. And then the first couple of years were good. We kept it scrappy, raised some money from friends and family. We did about Like you said, about 800,000 in the first 2 years. Year 3 was really a big year for us. We did 5 million in sales, and that was 2018. Year 4, 2019, we did 26 million in sales. And this year, even, I mean, including the pandemic, we should clear 80 million in sales this year.
Unbelievable. That's absolutely amazing. I guess the stuff that I was looking at was a little bit old, I guess, when you guys were just starting out there. What's it like right now? Like, what's your balance between e-commerce, direct to consumer, and retail outlets? Obviously, retail is taking a hit right now.
So generally our revenue split is 80% retail, 20% direct to consumer. And of that direct to consumer volume, it's 50-50 Amazon, Shopify, our own website. And right now in March was a really good month. We're in today. I mean, when we film this, it's May 19th. March of 2020 was a good month. April was down like 30%, but the whole sort of grocery industry saw that decline. And now May is starting to pick back up. In a normal year, this would be our busiest week of the year, just getting ready for Memorial Day, really getting ready for people to be outside, hit the grocery stores, the barbecues, the beaches, that type of thing. So we're finding creative ways to keep that momentum and that volume coming.
Very cool. So right now with your business where it is right at this exact moment, what part of the business are you most obsessed about?
Right this very second is fundraising. So it's an expensive business and we are not profitable. Granted, we've been growing very fast, but the fact of the matter is we're building our dreams with other people's money. And until now, we've raised about 25 million bucks and we're bringing on a Series B of 28 million. So hopefully in a couple of weeks, we'll have raised, all time will be over $50 million. So there's a lot of pressure that comes with that, but my job, my focus right now, to answer your question, is getting that money in the bank.
Interesting.
How are you finding that market right now? I mean, we've heard raising money, has gotten a little more difficult since the pandemic hit. Are you seeing that? Are people jumping back in with 2 feet?
Yeah, it's a good question. Investors are always slow in good times and bad. Like they're just slow people, and I think. For a lot of different reasons. So fundraising is a full-time job for any CEO, but a global pandemic definitely complicates things. We closed half the round already on April 17th, and the second close just sort of keeps getting pushed back. A lot of funds are reserving their funds, not for new growth investments, but to support struggling portfolio companies. And even though we're in the consumer packaged goods space, some of our investors have invested in restaurant businesses or transportation or hospitality businesses. And those things need a lot more help than we do right now. So that's the tricky thing is I don't want to be insensitive to the situation, but I think our business is protected more than most right now because we are an essential item in terms of we're available in grocery stores, we're zero sugar, we provide energy, like coffee is a commodity, so people are buying our product. So our valuation didn't take a hit. And I mean, despite all that's going on.
Awesome, man. That's great.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Nice. So I wanted to ask you were saying that it's an expensive business to run. And one of the things that it was funny, we do this podcast on Fridays where we talk about the e-commerce ideas that we're sort of most excited about. And often Jeff, of course, loves to bring up anything food related, anything consumable related. We think there's just a massive opportunity to go direct to consumer with a lot of these types of things. But what are some of the pitfalls of building like a complex, high quality product? Like you've got all these supply chains to deal with in terms of where you're getting your coffee beans from. And then you've got all these other interesting ingredients and things. What are some of the biggest challenges when it comes to running like a high quality consumable product?
I think honestly, just the physical nature of it, like there's 4,500 Walmarts in the US and it's really hard to make sure that your product arrives on time to every store every single week. There's a lot of shit that goes into that, from sourcing the packaging, sourcing the ingredients, making the products, getting the distributors on board, making sure the sales team is writing the orders. Accounts receivable is a complicated thing. Like on the surface, it's very simple. We sell product to grocery stores, we stock shelves, people buy it off the shelf, we restock the shelves. But there's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes. And any single one of those processes, from supply chain to procurement to manufacturing and then distribution, if any one of those gets disrupted, there will be delays, there will be out of stocks, that type of stuff. So it's more complicated than it seems, but I would say it's a simple industry. It's a simple business that we run. It's just not an easy one.
Did you learn everything just on the fly? Because like you're a young guy and you were in school when this started. Like you're talking about receivables, you're talking about, you know, normal business stuff. Like how'd you come about all that?
Yeah. I mean, so my brothers and I was a philosophy major and I played football. You know, like I knew how to run a zone read and get 3 yards of play to win a game. And frankly, like our industry is not much different than that. Like I don't want to oversimplify things, but like I said, we got to put product on the shelves. We have to make it available to people. We have to drive trial through sampling events. And in doing that, we sort of learned the basic fundamentals of the business. One thing I will say too, though, is like in the beginning, we were very naive of how difficult this was going to be. You know, like we didn't know it couldn't be done. So we just did it. And along the way, we did surround ourselves with good coaches, good mentors, good people to sort of guide us. But I mean, I always say like we're the players and we have some mentors who are the coaches, and they'd say like, here's the playbook, go run it. But from a super high level, like one guy, we're grateful for this, man. His name is Seth Goldman. He was the founder of Honest Tea. He's the chairman of Beyond Meat right now, sort of a legend in our industry. We reached out to him before we ever sold a bottle of Super Coffee. And he introduced this strategy to us called like inch wide, mile deep. He's like, look, it's going to be really tempting to build a national brand really fast. You're going to want to get distribution. You're going to want to say yes to opportunities, but you can't support it. The most important metric really for a startup beverage company is velocity, just bottles per store per week. How much are you selling? And it's not, nobody cares how many stores you're in. They care, is there a repeat purchase rate? Is this product unique enough? So Seth's inch wide, mile deep advice really had us focused on just the DC region, Washington, DC, where we launched. And we didn't move out of that region. We got offers to go to California, to New York, to other parts of the country. But we're like, we're building this mid-Atlantic, and we're not leaving until we sort of establish that beachhead. And we've taken that advice into every new market with us.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Inch wide, mile deep. How else can we apply? How can we apply that to our business? Is that a way that we think about things, or is it more just for mass consumables?
Yeah, it's the 80-20 rule. So basically 80% of your revenue comes from your top 20% of accounts. And speaking literally in our space, like we don't want, that means that those top 20 accounts are going to get 80% of our resources. So like, let's say a good store for us, like a Kroger is typically does 20 cases of Super Coffee a week. That'd be a lot. Like that'd be one of the best stores in the country. We'd rather find a way to take that store from 20 cases to 30 cases than to go find some shitty store and take it from 1 case a week to 2 cases a week. And like, you know what I mean? It's a game of averages, like that. We'd rather increase that Kroger 30% than double our volume in a store that doesn't really have that much influence or impact.
Yeah, of course. That makes perfect sense. And that is very similar to the way we work with clients as well. And mining the clients that have the biggest potential for the biggest impact that we can make with them. And then I imagine also like in your industry, when you do get massive velocity at a Target or a Wegmans or one of these big stores, it's just going to spread the desire all sorts of places because you're going to get so much more visibility on the shelves and everything like that.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about like the early, like, so you got your product into some stores and it sold fast, right? Like talk about that, like how you did that. Because there's a lot of people that listen to this that are purely e-com, they're purely online. And there's a lot of brands that want, like a lot of our clients, they want to go retail too. They just have no idea. Like what's that process? And then do you have a team? Like where are you at now with finding partners to sell your product?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I certainly don't want to create a misconception of like, you put a good product on the shelf and it's going to sell like hotcakes, right? Like I always say, you could put gold in a bottle and if without the right support behind it, it'll collect dust on the shelf. So for us, when we created it, we sort of, even to this day, we're willing the sales into existence. Like we got into that first store. It happened to be a Whole Foods Market back in 2016, January of 2016. My brothers and I showed up on the first day. We made the delivery. We poured samples for 4 hours, like almost forcing it down people's throats. Like, hey, try this stuff. Give us a shot. We just started down the street from Georgetown University. Like, let's give this a shot. and driving trial. Back then, the product didn't taste great. The packaging was ugly, but we sold a lot of it. And the core principle or the value of the product, zero sugar, added protein, low calorie, like all that stayed true. So it was different enough, and people would buy it because of its sort of uniqueness. But it was really a lot of effort that went into selling it. There was no tips or tricks. It was simply be there to support,
Interesting. You're just pounding the pavement.
What's that?
You're just pounding the pavement.
Yeah. And then you do it in 2 stores and 3 stores and 4 stores.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs in our space too kind of forget that. Like, you're pounding your campaigns, but pick up the phone, calling customers, that kind of stuff. I think it's often kind of forgotten these days.
Yeah, we have a lot to learn from the customers. It's cool. Today, I spent. We have a consumer analytics director on our team, and we're starting to learn more about some of our most valuable customers, like the people who have spent the most money on our store within the last 12 months, online now, direct to consumer. And I had 2 customer interviews with them today. And like, as the CEO, it's important for me to sort of stay close to that. What's working, what's not working. An interesting takeaway is like, both people that I spoke with today aren't coffee drinkers. They don't like coffee, but they love super coffee, which is an interesting thing. Is like, we're sweet. Maybe we shouldn't position ourselves to coffee to people who don't drink coffee, so staying close to the customer is certainly, in my opinion, more important than tactics or audience selection or CAC to LTV. It's like, really got to understand what people care about.
That's awesome. That fuels everything else.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit more about direct to consumer. It's 20%. It's probably growing. It's probably a fast growing aspect of the business. Just what does your operation for direct to consumer look like in SuperCoffee? Are you doing it internally? Do you have an external agency? What does that look like?
Yeah. So we have a director of e-commerce, and until now, he's been in charge of everything, Amazon and Shopify. We work with the 3PL who does all of our fulfillment for both Amazon and Shopify. And when I say Shopify, that's just drinksupercoffee.com, right? That's our website. And our director of Ecom works with a paid social agency on like the Facebook, Instagram side. We spend most of our ad dollars within Facebook and Instagram. We have a really strong retention program through like an email CRM, and we do some SMS marketing as well for retention. We are bringing on a VP of e-commerce, a gentleman who sort of built up Red Bull and Soylent on Amazon. He starts on July 1st. Yeah, so he's a beast. Pumped to get him on board. And then, most of our online ads go through Facebook right now.
Very cool. Soylent, that's another magic word for Jeff. Jeff's been a Soylent fanatic.
Back in the day, I used to have to get it like smuggled across the border when we couldn't get it in Canada.
We didn't have enough room in the office fridge. Like, it was piled up.
Can we get SuperCoffee in Canada, or is it just in the US right now?
It's just in the US right now, but maybe coming to Canada soon. We got to figure out like the label compliance stuff.
French, got to get French on there.
That's right.
What do you find it? Oh, sorry, man, I didn't mean to interrupt. In terms of Facebook and Instagram ads, like, and you said 20% of your sales are direct to consumer. Of that, how much is directly from paid ads?
That's a great question. I would say half of it. It's tough to tell because like people come to our site organically, and then a lot of the people. It's interesting because we have such a big retail presence. Some people discover SuperCoffee in stores. They'll buy like one bottle at a bodega here in New York City, and then they'll go online and order a case from Amazon. So I would say that most of our online revenue is driven by ads. But again, it's not like the attribution isn't it's not tough. It's a little tough to measure.
Yeah, it always is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I wanted to just jump a topic quick here. Like, how many brothers are there? How many DiCicco brothers are there?
There are 3 DiCicco brothers, no sisters.
No
I'm
sisters.
the oldest of 3. Yeah, I'm 27, Jake's 26, and Jordan's 25.
And how did it shake out with, you were a quarterback, you're the oldest brother, so you get to be CEO. Is that how that works? Or did it just sort of like naturally fall into place the way it's supposed to? Like,
well, I'm the strongest and the meanest, so I just beat the shit out of them until they said, "Okay, Uncle, you're CEO." No, I'm just kidding. It's one of those things that, like the only way this business works together is because each of us bring a unique sort of skill set or personality to the brand. So Jordan is operations. That's the youngest brother. He came up with the formula. He does all of our innovation. He manages the operations. He's very analytical when it comes to like building an org structure, but also like producing products, manufacturing, that side of the business. Jake is the middle brother. He's got a big personality. He's our head of sales and chief revenue officer. And I suck at sales, and I'm not analytical, so I suck at operations too. But given my sort of ability to network with investors and recruit talent in the early days, it was sort of a natural fit for me to step into the CEO role. And both Jake and Jordan were cool with that. And I think if we did work on the same things, it wouldn't work. If we tried to have 3 CEOs or 2 marketing guys or 2 sales guys, it just wouldn't work. So the fact that we each sort of stay in our own lanes is critical to this thing.
And no noogies required.
Very quickly, quick question.
Yeah.
What kind of parents do you have? Like, what's their careers?
Yeah, no, good question. So both of our parents were college athletes as well, and they're young right now. Mom is 50, my dad's 51. And growing up, my mom worked at the YMCA. She just taught athletic, like fitness classes at the local Y. So we were basically raised at the Y. We'd go, we'd swim, we'd play basketball, we'd shoot hoops, like we'd lift weights, that type of thing. And my dad has an engineering degree, but he worked for the county, like designing bridges, working on infrastructure, that type of stuff. So like I said, we weren't familiar with the term startup. I didn't know what a business plan was or a pitch deck or any of that stuff. So, but I think the lesson there is people can start before they're ready. Like you don't think that you need to get an MBA or have like professional training to start a company. You're never going to be ready.
And when you're young too, it's almost the best time because you can fail. Like I've had a bunch of businesses that didn't pan out before we got here.
Yeah, dude. And that's the thing. It's like we got nothing. I don't have a mortgage. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have a family. It's like we're all in. And that's another cool thing too, is like there's no divide between work and life, and not in like a workaholic type way, but like you gotta love what you do, because I live with my brothers, our family's involved in terms of like just supporting us and rooting for us. And it's not like at 5 p.m. I punch out and go live a different life. It's like, this is my life, and it's sort of 24/7 in a good way, a healthy way.
I think you highlight another thing too, that Dave, our the CEO of Pilothouse, who does a lot of the hiring, he looks for student athletes as like a rule. I think that's a really understated thing as well. It's just sort of like there's something about athletics that just instills a sense of discipline, a sense of like, getting it done kind of thing. So I think you guys probably embody that as well.
Yeah. Or that athletes, we might just be dumb enough to take orders and run through walls.
I think that's a good way to put it as well, I think.
Talking about hiring a little bit, how big are you guys now? I mean, you're at, you're poised to do 80 million this year. That's huge. How many people do you have on payroll now?
Yeah, no, this is the craziest piece. We're 85 full-time and 150 part-time employees. And I always say that our team is our barrier to entry. This is a very hands-on, hand-to-hand combat industry. We have to physically be in stores every single day, stocking shelves, building displays, building relationships with the managers and the buyers. And it takes a certain type of person to do that, and when we recruit, we look for a lot of the things that you guys just touched on, the discipline, the teamwork, our culture, like our general philosophy is work hard and be nice to people. You can't have one without the other. If you work hard and you're an asshole, we don't want you. If you don't work hard and you're nice to people, we don't want you either. So I think that combination and sort of the sacrifice for teammates is a big thing, right? And so everybody in our business is an owner. We don't offer commission. We don't want this to be about an individual. We want it all to be sort of contributions to the team. But team is everything, man. Getting people to buy into the culture. One thing we learned quickly, this was a hard lesson for us, is culture is not only the people you bring on and sort of what your team looks like, it's also what you tolerate. So if there's somebody who's not a right fit, like if you make a bad hire, you let that person linger, it becomes cancerous. And I'm sure you guys have heard that before, but culture is also what you tolerate. You got to really make the tough decision as the leaders to sort of weed those people out.
Yeah, good. Super, super well said. I love that attitude. That's great.
Yeah, we're in a period of mass growth right now where we've gone from we sort of doubled in size on a like monthly basis for the last little while. We're approaching 26 now.
Let's go.
And we're excited to get back in the office. You know, we the last 3 months of this total remote staff has been a trying test. And I think looking at the way the team has reacted to it, I'm really proud of everyone. But at the same time, we're so keen to get back in that space with people.
Yeah. What do you guys do? Are you guys paying your office rent right now, or are you getting any type of leniency there?
Canada has a lot of programs out right now. We're still doing good. Like we're doing great. We've actually seen an increase, if anything, during this whole COVID thing. And I think a big part of that is ad costs have dropped. So a lot of our direct-to-consumer clients have just seen big boosts in performance. So, you know, even if we could, we're not going to right now, you know, apply for any of those subsidies because I do a lot of businesses that need it more than we do. But yeah, I mean, also we've got a smoking deal on office rent. So it's pretty easy to suck that one up every month.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
How about you guys?
We're mostly remote. You know, a lot of our team is field sales and marketing for different regions. We're national in the US right now. So we have 10 people that work out of the headquarters here in New York City. But we've just given everybody the option to work from home right now. I'm at my apartment. My brothers and I will occasionally go in the office just to mix it up. But yeah, I think for our business, culture and camaraderie is a big piece of it. So I think you'll see a lot of companies shift to this sort of remote workforce because of this whole COVID thing. But for us, building that culture and camaraderie in person is super important.
Saying you have a lot of remote workers too. I mean, obviously if you're a national brand, you've actually got people on the ground in different states and things. How do you build that culture and camaraderie? Like we've been working on that, and it's tough. Like it is really tough, especially with new employees, especially with people that don't really have the day-to-day interactions with the team. How do you instill that in people that will never end up at the office, or very rarely at least?
Yeah, I think being very clear about your culture and your purpose is super important. I think that attracts good talent and it attracts like-minded people. So for us, we have core values, and we call it, we created this acronym called COACH, and it stands for curious, optimistic, ambitious, compassionate, and humble. So we put that out into the world. We have an ethics statement on what we aspire to do as a company, how we want to treat people, how we want to treat our partners, our customers. And so being very clear about that and setting the guardrails of who you are and who you are not, I think is important. But the other thing too is constant contact. You know, so we have a team call every Monday morning at 7:30 a.m. To set the tone for the week, get people going. We get on again as a full-time team on Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. So a lot of contact. And then we're within the overall organization, we're really a team of teams, you know, so we divide the sales units up by region with the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, Southeast, and each one of those regions has its own culture and its own communication, but we're all sort of building towards these bigger goals. So I will say that it's tough not to be in person. We like to do two company-wide gatherings a year. We're probably only going to do one this year. And then my brothers and I travel a lot. So we'll parachute into a market. We'll work with the reps in that particular market on the ground. But I mean, like we're doing right now, a lot of video calls as well. I think communication is key.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to jump a little bit into, and this is back into your early days again, but to your Shark Tank experience. We have a number of clients that we work with that have had Dragon's Den, the Canadian Shark Tank, or our Shark Tank experience. And that's whether or not you take the deal, that experience is gold in so many ways to expose your brand. And also, I see you're doing this as well, actually using it in the fodder for your digital ads. This is an angle that we see works again and again with direct-to-consumer products. Can you walk us through your Shark Tank experience?
Yeah, man. And it's crazy how well it still works. So our episode on Shark Tank aired in February of 2018, and it was a super cool experience. We had about a month to prepare for it. And so, I mean, as athletes, like we treated it like the Super Bowl. You know, we repped it and we repped it, and we did mock interviews, mock pitches. We got investors around the table and we pitched them. And they were critical, like they pretended to be the Sharks. So it was pretty cool. And when we get out there, we filmed in Hollywood at Sony Studios, right on like the 21st Century Fox lot. And we were the first company to pitch on a Saturday morning. And it's a funny story. So we get there early, super early, like 6 a.m. go through hair and makeup. They put on microphones for us, and then we walk out and we see the set where the sharks are going to sit. We see our dorm room set, and the producers were like, "Guys, get back in your dressing room. You got 20 minutes until showtime." So at this point, we're hyped. Like we're ready. We know the pitch down cold. The first 90 seconds is the scripted pitch that we write as entrepreneurs, and then after that, it's a dialogue. It's a conversation. And we were in front of the sharks for over an hour, but we're waiting in the dressing room, 20 minutes till showtime, and we're like jumping around like it's about 10 minutes before kickoff. Like we're hyped. And my brother Jake is like, "I'm gonna set the tone right away. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna kiss Barbara right on the lips, and then that's how we're gonna start this show." And I'm like, "I don't know if that's right, but fuck yeah, I love your energy." And 5 minutes go by, and we get a knock on the door, and we're like, "All right, boys, it's showtime." And the producer opens the door and says, "Boys, your microphones are on. We can hear everything you're saying." So we're like, "Oh no!" But it was like just a funny little moment before we went out there, and we didn't do a deal. But to your point, 2 years later, we're still running in ads. We're hanging signs in grocery stores as seen on Shark Tank. It's amazing the sort of validity that something like that provides. And we were reluctant to go on the show. We didn't want to be at sort of, for lack of a better term, like a tacky Shark Tank brand. We wanted to build $1 billion enterprise, and we didn't think Shark Tank was the way to do that. That said, it's opened a lot of doors for us. And you guys see it firsthand. It drives a lot of revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just the pre-sales content, that pre-framing of a consumer, it's just like an influencer. It's just a very good influencer, really. And I imagine it's helping raising your profile when it comes to your investors as well. Were you able to leave that experience with some good leads on investment?
Yeah. So some people ask, they're like, "Did the sharks reach out after the show?" No, that doesn't happen. Although we did just take an investment from Alex Rodriguez, which is cool. Totally separate. He wasn't on our episode, but he's a guest shark on Shark Tank sometimes now. Yeah, it was one of those things where you same way you do it in retail, you sort of tell investors, we pitched on Shark Tank, the episode is going to air, the business is going to lift. So we were able to raise that year. So it's crazy. We went on Shark Tank asking for $1 million for 10%. Less than a year later, all the sharks said no, didn't get a deal done. Valuation was too high. We were valuing ourselves at $10 million. Less than a year later, we raised $15 million at a $50 million valuation. So, it's just funny how the tables turn, right?
Totally. I wanted to ask about celebrity versus other kinds of investors, more traditional types of investors. I saw that you also have Baron Davis as an investor, which is really cool. How do you balance, what are you looking for when you're looking for an investor? Are you looking for people that bring their own name into it, or are you looking for more institutional investors?
Definitely not institutional investors. As an entrepreneur, there aren't really rules. You sort of write the playbook as you go. Institutional investors have their formulas, their rule sets, their guidelines, their valuation metrics, and it's like sort of confining and frankly, our business doesn't fit the perfect profile of a high growth investment business. So we try to avoid that stuff just because we don't like getting squeezed into classifications that aren't really relevant. We look for money from people who believe in what we're doing. They believe in us, right? They're betting on us more than they're betting on the product. And if they can add value, great. If not, no sweat. At this point in our business's life cycle, we know what the playbook is. We know what the plan is. We just need the cash to execute it. Getting somebody like BD on board it's not about his money so much as it is about his influence and his connections, he's not like a famous Instagram influencer, but he's 1 degree away from everybody, so we were with him out at NBA All-Star Weekend back in February, and he was introducing us to James Harden and Russell Westbrook and Miguel, we went to Michael Jordan's All-Star party. It was dope. And it was just access through a guy like Baron. And that's what I always say is influencers don't influence customers as much as they influence other influencers, right? Because the whole NBA follows Baron Davis. So they see that and they're like, "Oh shit, what's BD drinking? What's the super coffee? I want in on that."
Nice. And so many, NBA players specifically have these great stories of investing in consumer products like Shaq. And so I can see they're always looking for that next opportunity to jump on board. I wanted to ask, have you done much with direct-to-consumer influencers as well? We talked with a guy on our last podcast he's planning in Q4 400 of these integrations essentially, where he's going to partner with influencers and launch. Are you guys doing much on the D2C influencer side?
We haven't yet. I'm frankly a little disenchanted with the whole influencer game. I think it's very transactional and doesn't really have an impact. And similar to like attribution, like influencers can't prove their worth. They'll say, "Hey, I'm $5,000 for 3 posts," but like, what do those posts do for my business, right? Like, and as soon as you say like, "Hey, we'll pay you on an affiliation basis," everybody's like, "No, we don't do that," right? Like I'll create a code for you and give you $20 for every case you sell. That uncapped. Go do it. And it doesn't really move the needle. It's not like people are blowing that up, So we haven't done much influencer stuff yet. Although we have our plant-based super coffee coming out on June 8th, and we are doing a little bit of an influencer activation around that. So we'll see how it goes. But to me, it's more of a brand awareness thing than a performance thing.
We're gonna send you a link after this when we publish it, just because it's kind of it's a paid media strategy that bridges influencer. So you're actually taking the post and using that for ad content.
Dope.
It actually works quite well. I think there's probably value in listening to that.
And it's a way to like all the problems that you have with influencer marketing, the attribution, the quantification. If you basically get agency control over influencer's account, and then you can run budget against it, and you can quantify things a lot more. It's a way. It's sort of like the evolution of influencer marketing that brands are using to really scale it and get better attribution.
Are you whitelisting the ads through their account, so it says like Alex Rodriguez, or are you taking their content and running it through the brand's account?
Either or.
Both a lot of times.
Both.
Like if you can get Rodriguez, if you can get that ad account, by all means. But Baron Davis too, totally. Like we've seen it both ways. We do it both ways internally also. So if you can get that deal, it depends on the scope. Like those guys have massive scale, and so you're going to get a lot more scale out of their accounts. But on the flip side, if you're working with followers, like or people with influencers with 10,000, 100,000 followers, you're going to run out of that audience. So we use it for middle and bottom funnel retargeting for the most part.
Cool.
Nice. It's just a really nice way to get ad copy and content and a fresh look on the product.
This might be a loaded question, but for CPG companies, what ROAS do you guys shoot for? Like, what's your target ROAS for top of funnel ads?
That is loaded. Case by case for sure. It really comes down to what the cogs are on the back end, as you know. And so we do a lot of bundling. So we try to push AOVs up. We try to measure out the LTV, which you talked about. But, we agree on a magic number, whatever that number is that is profitable for that partner. That's what we need to hit. So, 3 ROAS could mean nothing to you.
Right. 3 ROAS would be fucking great for us.
Yeah. So we just got to bundle stuff up, create some content and pages around it, and away we go.
Nice.
Yeah. We've got some that work at like, 1.7, 1.8. And then we've got some that like need to be at that 2.7 to, hit numbers. Those are the lower margin guys. So if you've got margin, that's, you can do all sorts of crazy stuff, as you know.
Totally.
I think our sweet spot is that creation of content on the front end that sort of like targets and refines your audience and gets you cheaper engagement, so that the people that do engage the content are more bought in by the time that they're, by the time they've read your content. So that to me has been our sort of sweet spot ability to kind of to scale these kinds of campaigns. So that's what I recommend. Cool. I wanted to, I think we've covered most of what I wanted to cover here. I just think, your vision for where you want to go next. You said you want to be this $1 billion company. I spent a couple of years in Asia after university, and like Asia is so far ahead of the game when it comes to canned and bottled coffee. Like it's just such a massive market there. They love their sweets so much there. But at the same time, in North America, there's this huge sugar backlash where all products are offering reduced sugar versions. And I've often wondered, like, why aren't there more like barely sweet or half sweet options when it comes to drinks? I'm curious, like how you're going to get to your vision for how you're going to get to $1 billion. Is it going to be cracking Asia? Is it going to be, expanding to other markets? Like what's your game plan?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. And we have a lot of work left to do here in the States. I think it all comes back to that velocity metric that I mentioned earlier. How can we mean a lot to a smaller amount of people. And then international expansion will ultimately rely on a partnership with some type of strategic, right? Whether it's Pepsi or Nestle or Coca-Cola. We don't have intentions of taking the brand internationally as long as we're in charge of it or privately held. So I think I totally agree with you. Asia is a massive coffee market and only expanding. So yeah, I think for us, we still have we have a lot of penetration left in the US. We're about 20% available in the US. Consider like if 100% available was every single store in the country. So we're about 20% available. We launched some new products. So getting the innovation into existing distribution is important for revenue growth as well. But really driving trial, one cool stat is we have a 52% repeat purchase rate in stores. So 1 out of every 2 households who try SuperCoffee, they're going to buy it again. So people like sweets. Our products are 0 sugar, but they are sweet. So they look for that flavor, and we just got to we call it sips to lips. How do we drive trial?
I love things that rhyme, and that's a really good one. Sips to lips. That's the name of the game. Did you have any? You had some good questions for us earlier. Have you any other thoughts? Any other questions for the direct to marketing or direct to consumer crew here?
Yeah, I mean, it's to your guys' point. Like that's the fascinating thing about D2C is like there's no formula, there's no playbook that works for every business. But beverage is very different than technology, and I think that's the fascinating piece is getting in and cracking the code. So yeah, I don't know, man. I guess what channels are you most excited about for the remainder of 2020? Is it TikTok? Is it Facebook? Is it something that we haven't heard of yet? Like where are you optimistic about?
So we manage traffic holistically. So we try to support. I mean, here's the playbook. So we drive Facebook and Instagram for the most part. I'd say that's 75% of our spend. That then feeds our Amazon work and our Google work, and they're all working together. And then when stuff is working off of Facebook, we apply it into Pinterest and Snapchat. TikTok, there's a lot of virality happening right now. There's a lot of free traffic. For paid ads specifically, that's our wheelhouse. That's what the team is built around. And that's kind of what we're doing. So we create this content and these pages around that. So to your question about 2020, obviously TikTok, it's hype right now. I think that we need to investigate that a little bit more as an agency, to be honest, but I think everyone does.
Yeah.
And it's more of an organic play. As far as I understand it, the best things that are happening on TikTok right now are similar to the best things, or some of the best things that are happening on YouTube, which we spoke about in our Vessi podcast, which are these integrations where you get organic content made by the right people. And it's less of, we're experts at putting $1 in and getting $2 out, as opposed to, and we're getting better at these, at sort of more organic integrations. But yeah, I think that's an area that we, want to continue to look at. I would say again, it's the content. Content is king in this space. And so it's figuring out the right types of front end content, whether that be explainer videos, listicles, pre-sales pages, quizzes, like all these things that kind of go in front of the offer page that pre-sell people and engage different kinds of people on different kinds of things that they might be interested in. Our whole thing as an agency is relentless iteration. And just as you say, there's no playbook for this. We're building a playbook as we go, but again, we don't know these things all the time, whether they're going to work until we try them. And we've built this agency to be able to like rapidly iterate at scale, effectively, and just kind of, that's the game for us.
Totally, dude. I think creative has been our bottleneck because you can test so much stuff with so much volume, and that's really, access to creative, UGC, videos, memes, GIFs, all of those things are really where we got to find more bandwidth to keep creating.
Do you guys have a program right now to generate more UGC, like in your email follow-up sequence, or send in for a 30% off coupon, send us a picture of you drinking?
Not an evergreen program. We'll do one-off things. We get tagged a lot in Instagram stories, and we tend to save and repurpose that content. Our full team is a big team that is constantly out with customers, getting photos of happy customers, displays in stores. So we tend to use some of that stuff as well.
Nice.
That's interesting. Have you been able to correlate your like people going to store after seeing, like, are you uploading offline conversion events into Facebook, for example?
No. Not yet. I think like we've tried things like where we geofenced a region or a city or a county and said now available at this particular grocery store, but you don't see a lift. We're too new of a brand to see a lift, right? Like year over year growth is crazy, so like you can't really attribute growth to a geofenced ad, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it's so money.
Yeah, so it's tricky, you know, but there have been anecdotal stories of like, hey, I found your product in a bodega and now I'm a subscribing customer on Amazon, you know, so that shit's definitely happening. And I'm sure you guys see it too. There is a direct attribution. The more we spend on Facebook and Instagram, Amazon sales increase as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think we measured it. I think about 30% of people bounce, either come back in through a review, Google search ad, or an Amazon ad, especially in the States. It's way higher in the States, obviously, just because the market share Amazon has, less so internationally.
Very cool. Well, Jim, I want to thank you so much for coming on the hot seat today. Super interesting. I think this is our first consumable that we've had on the hot seat. We've got another one coming up with I1 Organics that I'm really excited about. But I think this is one of the most exciting areas in all of direct to consumer right now. So, and obviously you're on this amazing rocket ship. I wish you all the best, and I can't wait to keep tabs on you, have you back, and you know when you really crack the code.
Rock on, fellas. Well, thank you so much for coaching me up today, having me on the show, and wish you guys the best. Well, let's stay in touch, and hopefully we can continue to learn from each other.
Definitely.
Thanks,
You too, Jim. Yeah, thanks so much, man.
Cool.
Peace,
Take care. See ya.
Bye, guys.